In ASP.NET MVC, it's also very easy to create your own custom helpers. Let me give you an example. Let's say that every restaurant had an image URL associated with it, such that we could say image source equals item.restaurant.image URL, and the alt text should be item.restaurant.name, so that we'll provide a proper alt tag here. But that was a little bit tedious to type, and also it might not work because these values might not be something that you can legally put in an attribute. It should be encoded. What I'd like to be able to do is instead is just have my own helper so that I can say html.image and pass in item.restaurant.image URL and item.restaurant.name and have an image tag emitted for me and take care of all these problems inside. That one was easier to type, but it doesn't exist as yet. That's why we have the little red squiggly indicating there's an error. Fortunately, C# 3.0 introduced the concept of extension methods, which allows you to add methods to an existing type, and all of the HTML helper methods are actually defined as extension methods. We can define our own extension method. An extension method has to live inside of a public class, and we're going to create a public static method that for right now returns a string, and it's going to extend the HTML helper type. So the this keyword in front of the first parameter indicates this is an extension method. Then you just pass me in the source and the alt text to use, and I will build the tag. I'm going to use that by using a tag builder class. Tag builder helps you build properly formatted HTML where all the attributes are properly encoded. We can set attributes by using the merge attribute API. So we will set the source attribute, we will set the alt attribute, and then we will return this builder by calling toString. And we don't want just any string, we want this to be a string that is a self-closing HTML tag. So with all that in place, let me just copy out this namespace before we leave this file. Come back to index.cshtml, remove this other image tag that we had in place, and try to go to the list of reviews. And what we'll find is that there's a compiler error because the C# compiler only sees extension methods that are in scope. The namespace has to be in scope. So there's two ways to fix this. One would be to add a using statement at the top of our view that brings in odefoo.infrastructure. And if I refresh now, we have an image tag, but notice it's been HTML encoded. So let's try to fix that problem first. Remember, Razor, this code expression, is always going to HTML encode what it's outputting unless it sees a special type inside. One of those types would be the type MVC HTML string. So let's change the return type to MVC HTML string, and we need to create an MVC HTML string here. So MVC HTML string dot create and pass in what the builder has produced for us. Now we should be able to do a build. Now we should be able to come out and refresh this page. And now the image is actually in place. So HTML helpers are all about keeping your views simple. Instead of typing something that's complicated or cumbersome inside of the view, build your own helper, push some logic into that, and makes your views that much cleaner. So let me give you one additional tip. If html.image is something that we want to use everywhere, then we can take this using statement out of the individual views and instead add that namespace into the collection of namespaces that will be in effect when anything is being compiled in these Razor views. The way to do that is to open up the web.config that is in the views folder. So not the web.config that's at the root of the application, but the one in the views folder. And here you can see the collection of namespaces that will be used when compiling this. I'm just going to add our infrastructure namespace. And if we refresh this page again, it should still behave the same. But inside of any view now, I have this custom helper available to build image tags for me.